And Ronald.
What I thought to do today is a little from the Parashat that has to do with the times we're living in, because it's just too tempting to connect this incredibly once-in-a-lifetime ordeal that we're in the middle of to our Torah and the things that our Torah presents to us every week. So I'm going to try to connect our Parashat a little bit, the thought in our Parashat to what we're going through, and then some thoughts about La Omed, how that connects also to what we're going through. So let's begin a little bit with our Parashat. Perashat Emor is known most famously for housing one of the Torah's discussions about holidays. And for that reason, Perashat Emor, that portions of Perashat Emor are read on the holidays, but that doesn't really come to the end of the Parashat. The Parashat deals at length in the beginning with laws regarding Kohanim, restrictions, and different higher standards regarding Kohanim. Then the Parasha moves on to talk about certain limitations regarding Korbanot, and then afterwards gets into the holidays. So, first part of the Parasha regarding Kohanim, we're told that Kohanim have a restriction from the Torah called Tum'at Met, which means that a Kohen, as you know, cannot be in contact in the vicinity of a corpse, a dead body, someone who's deceased. And the Torah lists for us exceptions, and the exceptions are, basically you can say the Kohen's immediate family. He says, Ki im lish'ero, Torah says, Ki im lish'ero ha'karob elav. Besides his, so to speak, his flesh, who is close to him. And the Torah lists his mother, father, bar minan, son, daughter, and brother. And then it says, and if his sister, who is not married, also, she was never married, la yitama. What does that mean, la yitama? So it means that, simply speaking, to her, the Kohen can defile and become tameh, be in the vicinity, just like the other relatives. However, it's presented in an unusual manner. It could have just kept listing the relatives. Mother, father, son, daughter, brother, and unmarried sister. Why did it have to repeat the words la to her, yutama? He should become impure, right? So there are several different ideas that Hachamim derive from this, but one of them is possibly this refers to an action, an active role that not just Kohen, but anybody has to play in the terrible event of a deceased close relative. And we know that active role to be called in one word, which incorporates a lot of activity, and that's called avelut, bar minan. We should know from mourning. Of course, there's a very extensive machloket and discussion among our poskim. Is avelut, is mourning a mizvah from the Torah, or is the rabbinical law? And by and large, everyone agrees that the days of mourning after the first day is only rabbinical, but there's significant opinions that say that the first day of mourning is the oraita, is mizvah from the Torah. And that is sourced in this pasuk, really in just one word. It's amazing. It shows you how leveraged the Torah is. that you have hundreds and hundreds of halachot of avelut. You study it to the rabbinical test that comes out of one word or two words, lah yatama. For her, you must become, now here's not just referring to her and not just referring to a kohen, but the idea is actively engaging in someone who's deceased. So I want to mention what Hanuch says in terms of the reason for this mitzvah of mourning, and a little bit, as I said before, connected to what we're going through now. So for the most part, by and large, laws of mourning are for kavod hamet, which means, first of all, laws of burial, laws of hespedim, eulogy, and laws of mourning are honoring the deceased. The Gemara has two different concepts, honoring the living and honoring the deceased. For the most part, the thrust of what we do is for honoring the deceased. However, in honoring the deceased, and as we say, sitting, right? Because literally we're sitting for 7 days. So Sefer HaChanuch speaks about a very important objective that the Torah has, and Hakamim have, wanting us to mourn and sit and be silent. And a mourner's house, according to halakha, is supposed to, by and large, be silent. Our community in recent decades has taken that to a sort of different turn, and House of Mourner is a little too friendly. They're supposed to be, if you ever went to Ashkenaz House of Mourner, you really feel like you're in a House of Mourner. No one's saying anything. And you can just prompt the mourner to speak by themselves. In any case, but in the setting that's created with sitting and being silent and tearing clothes and being unkept and just a house that has an environment difficult, in doing all of that, so the Sefer HaChanuch explains as follows. Besides honoring the deceased, what we're doing is what the Torah often does when it offers us opportunities of mitzvot. And that is the Torah gives a physical conduit, a physical means to inspire ourself, our mind, our neshama, to aspire us mentally and spiritually, intellectually. How so? That when someone's sitting and thinking there for 7 days, he can't help thinking about life and himself and where he's going. And Sefer HaChanuch says that as Hakamim tell us, En Yisurin Belo Het, there is no such thing as hardship in this world that is disconnected to sin. That doesn't mean that reward and punishment for his sins and mitzvot is in this world, but it means that Kadosh Baruch Hu, for his own reasons, other than punishment, is always connecting our hardships, or the opposite, our sins to hardships, or hardships to sins. And for us to connect the dots is very difficult. We're not supposed to always know the answer to why, but we're always supposed to respect. Whenever there is a incident that's harsh, and especially Bad Minan, when we have a deceased, we're supposed to be thinking about what could I do to change? What did I do that was wrong? What do I need to do going forward? And so says the Sefer HaChanuch, that is exacerbated in the setting of the Avel, of the mourner. And he has to be sitting there thinking about all the time, what have I done wrong? And hardships have come upon me. What do I need to change? And inspire him to make teshuvah, essentially. So that is his analysis of mourning, and the idea that's introduced to us in the beginning in an indirect way, introduced to us in the beginning of Perashat Emor. And what I want to say on that is that, really look what we're given here during this drama, this tragic saga that we're involved in right now. There's an opportunity, however, to sit, to be private, to be somewhat silent, to be disengaged, to not be interacting with the world around us. And it certainly gives us an opportunity and almost forces us to resolve, to introspect, to reflect, to think about ourselves. And quite frankly, any individual, I'm not talking about Am Yisrael as a whole, but any individual who doesn't take advantage of this day and time that we're living in to improve and look to perfect and find out what he needs to do for himself, I mean, really is not getting that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends international, national, and individual messages when he does big things. So that's a message given to us for the mourner regarding Perashat Emor, and for us, obviously, in this time that we're living through right now. Ike Adis has a question. You're on mute right now. You can unmute yourself, Ike, and then you can ask the question.
What difference is it to the Kohen if he becomes defiled from the immediate family, which he's allowed to, and let's say he becomes defiled by, not bishogeg, by accident, by a tumat met, and does that mean he's tameh forever, or he just can't participate in terumah and things like that, and bet hamikdash?
Okay, I don't want to really get into this, not our subject, but any Kohen that ever becomes tameh, he goes through the process prescribed by the Torah in the beginning of Perashat Chukat, which is that he is sprinkled upon with the me'efet para aduma on the third and seventh day, and he dips and he becomes tahor. So that's a recipe that Torah has for us in order to purify the Kohen and other people who become tameh. That's no problem. He's not tameh forever. Only here the Torah had rachamim on him for his immediate family, and Torah said, you can go ahead and defile yourself. Okay, now let's turn our discussion to Lag LaOmed, coming Tuesday night and Wednesday, and talk about what's about this celebration. Obviously, Am Yisrael will not be celebrating Lag LaOmed for the first time, probably forever, like we've done in the past, unfortunately. But we know that it is a major day of celebration. We have to figure out why that is. So it's not a secret, and there are different reasons offered to us. I want to go through the 4 reasons. The first one I want to mention something about that also is relevant to our days, and the last one I want to really focus on for a few extra minutes. So the first one given is that, as we know, there's a terrible, tragic event that happened close to 2,000 years ago with the Talmidei Chachamim, the students, the academies, the yeshivot of Rabbi Akiba, in which almost the Chachamim of the world were wiped out by terrible death. We're not going to go into the whys and the discussions about that. But first of all, we could just imagine. Now we read articles in the past few months about the terrible tragedies of Hachamim who were passed away in the different communities. And you can imagine, you can't even say it, a world where all the Hachamim are wiped out of the world. Such an unimaginable, tragic time is what occurred, and that's why we have these customs of mourning. So one of the reasons that we're given for Lag LaOmed as a celebration is that on the 33rd day was the last day that they died. They stopped dying. And the truth is, everyone asked this question. I've always asked myself this question. I said, okay, thank God they stopped dying. But you don't make a party when people stop dying. And really, when I've myself given classes in the past on Lag LaOmed, I've heard other rabbis give it, what you naturally tend to do is say, all right, well, that can't be the whole reason. So let's go to the other reasons, because who celebrates stopping dying from a plague? Gentlemen, we now know why that is a major reason for celebration. Because if right now, today, May 8th, today, we'd have a official proclamation from heaven that not one more Jew will die from this terrible disease that we're going through right now, yes, we would make a se'udat hoda'ah. We would thank Hashem and make a party for it. So this is the first time since this time that we understand what it means to celebrate a plague stopping. The stoppage of death, indeed, is a real call for celebration. So I wanted to point that out because here we can relate to something that I don't know how many other times in history Am Yisrael has been able to relate to. Now, there are other reasons given. A second reason given, and this is not unanimous, is that it's the day of Petirah, of death, of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Sfaradim don't really celebrate days of death, Ashkenazim do. But in any case, that is a controversial point. Some Hachamim disagree with that. I want to get back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in a moment. Is of course the other idea that Rabbi Akiva on this day, courageously, instead of giving up, instead of saying all is lost, the Hachamim are wiped out, he took a few Hachamim that remained, his 5 students, and he gave them official semicha, and he said, you are going to carry the torch and be the leaders of the next generation, and we are starting over. Rabbi Akiva took death and destruction and went from the lowest point. He went from the ashes, and he said, we're building from the ashes. We're starting again. We're not stopping. We're almost dead, but we're not dead. And therefore we continue. Torah never ends, and I'm going to have to plant the seeds for the future generations and start it all over again. All my life's work, yeah, but I'm starting over again. Like we did from the Holocaust, we went from the ashes to growth and to Torah and to building Israel, Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael. So that's a great cause for celebration that Torah restarted because of Rabbi Akiva's heroism and courageousness. But what I want to get to, this idea, but I want to focus on it for a couple of minutes, is the idea, and this could be, would you say, the main source of celebration for Lag BaOmer, and that is that through tradition we know that today, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his son Rabbi Eliezer, who were in hiding for many years, gave us a great revelation. The history, of course, we know is because they spoke out against the Roman government. They were fugitives, there was a tag on their lives, and they had to seek refuge and hide, and they hid for 12 years, and they survived on almost nothing, and they were isolated, they had no interactions with human beings, and of course they were studying and clinging to God and delving into God's Torah during those 12 years. After they came out, well, I'll get back to that in a moment. They came out in 12 years, they went back for another year, and after 13 years, they say that on this day, tradition tells us that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai revealed to us everything that they discovered and learned and uncovered during those years, which is the deepest level of understanding of the Torah, the true light of Torah, and the package of what we call today the Zohar or the Kabbalah. All those secrets were revealed. Other layers of Torah were uncovered and exploded out in a great light and were offered to Am Yisrael, not really known, at least publicly, before. And so that is a great cause of celebration. So it's very interesting, however, that we celebrate spirituality. Spirituality, I mean, not just Torah, but the secrets of Torah, the deepest secrets and levels and layers of Torah in a physical way. Now, we can question here, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. Is barbecues and bonfires and school field trips the most appropriate way to celebrate the revelation of high spirituality and Torah intellect at the highest level? Is that the most appropriate way to celebrate it? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to tell you why. I'll tell you why. How was this revealed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? You know how it was revealed to him? Him and his son were stripped of all physicality. They buried themselves for 12 years in the sand to preserve their clothing. One of the Tanaim testified afterwards that they had cracks in their body and their skin from all those years. They lived on waters in Carib. They were barely functioning as physiological human beings. Yet, that is perhaps or probably the only way that they came to that deep understanding. In other words, when they were able to abstain from physicality, they were able then to elevate themselves and intellectually focus on Hashem and His Torah, and without distraction, and with incredible laser-like focus and attention and delving in depth, were they able to reveal these secrets of Torah. You know who did that? You know who was the model for them to do such a thing? Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who received the original Torah Shebechtav and Torah Shebe'al Peh. Why Hashem have to do that to him? 40 days and 40 nights is hard enough on a mountain by yourself. Didn't eat and didn't drink. Now, that's a miracle in and of itself that he survived, obviously. But why was that necessary? The reason why that was necessary is because the Torah HaKadoshah is everything. It's the intellect of God. It's the manifestation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His perfection in this world. It's something that is high spiritual, intellectual, and physical. It's opposite of physical is the Torah. So how could a physical being be the conduit and the messenger of taking the ultimate metaphysical thing from heaven down to earth? He can't be. And so in order to do that, Moshe Rabbeinu had to separate himself from his body, almost shed his physicality, really abandon all natural desires and tendencies and materialism and cling to God for a temporary time, 40 days and 40 nights. And then he was able to stretch and be the connector between the spiritual and the physical world. And there he is as the conduit, as the go-between, as he was able as a physical body to act as least physical as possible. And only then would the Torah descend and that he merit transmitting it down to earth. The Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai had to do the same thing. However, when Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai came out of that cave 12 years later, and his son, and he had no patience at all for everything that he saw. He saw people plowing and working and eating and sleeping. He said, what is this? There's this, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat tells us about it. These people are lowly. What are these people doing? They're taking this world and they're acting like animals. They're not fit to be in this world. They weren't able to relate to human regular physical functioning because they were separated for so long. And Hashem said, you guys aren't ready for this. Go back, please, for 12 more months. And after they came back after 12 months, their attitude and their perspective was completely different. They saw people, they gave them kaf zechut, they saw the blessing in people, and then they gave their great secrets, revealed the levels of Torah to the people. And what does that show us? It shows us that even though the Torah is the intellect and the manifestation of Hashem, its perfection, its spirituality, it's metaphysical, but it was given to the physical human being. And that's why in Har Sinai it says, Vayochelu, Vayishtu, they ate and drank. Now some say it's a metaphor, it's an analogy, it's not literal, but some say it's literal. They ate and drank, had a Sebet on Har Sinai. And the reason is because the great elevated spiritual Torah was given to physical human beings to function and use it to guide their regular, mundane, physical lives and to guide them in every aspect and every minutia of their lowly physical beings. That's how the Torah functions. And therefore, we celebrate on Lag LaOmer the deepest revelations of Torah that is meant to rest in and to be absorbed by and to live with regular, everyday, functioning human beings, flesh and blood. And that is a gift, and that is why it is very appropriate to celebrate physically, whether you're having your barbecue not this year, or your bonfire not this year, or your school field trip not this year, to celebrate Lag LaOmer. It's exactly how we have to celebrate it. As physical beings who are able and have the privilege and merit to observe, to embrace, and to follow the spiritual and metaphysical Torah. That's the lesson taught to us by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, and that is a great event that is a means for celebration and gratitude to Hashem on Lag LaOmer. We'll stop here. We'll say Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen va'amen.